Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us. As you're logging in, as we're kind of going through housekeeping, go ahead and pop into the chat your name and what school district you're from. It's so great to spend time with you today, as I know this is a busy time of year as you're trying to wrap up the school year. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sharon, and I'm a Senior Client Success Manager here at K12 Insight. I will be your MC for today's office hours discussion. So yes, go ahead and put those in. We got Pasco's here. You guys are always so good about joining. Kathy, good to see you. Leander, love seeing these kind of come through. You might have seen we had some hosts. Bob, good to see you, who hopped off. Their fire alarm is currently going off in their district, so they will hopefully be back. But we'll just kind of get started. I can kind of fill in for them as we go along. So when you came in, few housekeeping items, you were automatically muted by Zoom, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So go ahead and use the chat to share a comment or ask a question. You can also raise a hand and I can go ahead and bring you off mute. If I miss a question, I have Olivia from the K12 Insight team behind the scenes, and she will interrupt me to make sure we're getting that question answered. So please take advantage of this. We're more than happy to have an open conversation with everyone. Love seeing these names still come through. Julie, hi. Trish, hi. Kathy from Fairfax, hello. This webinar is being recorded and it will be emailed out to you this week so you can rewatch or share with your colleagues. So as a refresher, today we'll be sharing different ways that you can be maximizing your K12 Insight partnership. And to do that, I have some amazing guests. I will introduce some of them as they are currently out of the building with their fire alarm, and I'll have Megan introduce themselves. We're going to be hearing firsthand how they're leveraging our additional services for robust customer service approach. I will go through our Isaac team. Luckily, we have some faces on here. Hopefully they'll get to rejoin us, and then Megan, I'll pass it over to you. If they hop on, we have Amarette. She's a communications specialist. She's been with the district. I think she's closing in on about a year now. We have Michelle Nunez. She is another communications specialist. She has been with the district, gosh, I want to say 2 or 3 years now, and they're led by Sylvia, who recently was promoted to the Executive Director of Employee Relations, previously was overseeing their communications team. This is a powerhouse. Isaac School District is located in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and their team recently won a communications award in the state of Arizona. So hopefully they'll be back to join us. Megan, I will pass it over to you to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Megan Overman. I am Executive Director of Communications in a school district called Eagle Mountain-Saginaw ISD. We are 73 square miles with 30 campuses in the far northwest Fort Worth, Dallas metroplex. So we are the suburbs, but we are within 15 minutes of downtown. So we've kind of got the best of both worlds in our opinion, down here. I'm coming into my 10th year in school PR. 10th year in Eagle Mountain-Saginaw, my 24th year in school PR. And I have been with K12 Insight for 2 different districts, going on about 2 decades now.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. She is a wealth of information as we're going to be learning today. So excited to get to have this conversation with you. So I can't wait to dive in to share your story, hopefully some of Isaac's. During our time together, we're going to share a little bit more. Megan gave a great overview of her district. We'll dive into a little bit of the data as well. We'll get to hear some of her firsthand success stories and how she's utilized different offerings. And hopefully this also will give you ideas so that you can walk away to learn how you can replicate them with your own districts. So if you've been to my webinars before, you know that we love to start it out kind of in the beginning with a poll. So if you were to have to answer right in this moment here with this poll, is your district delivering a comprehensive customer service experience? What would you say? There's no right or wrong answer to this. Everyone has different levels and starting points. Be like, yes, you know what, we're totally knocking out of the park. We have a strong foundation, but there's room for improvement, or not yet. We're just beginning our customer service journey. And again, no right or wrong answers. Now, the good news is, being Let's Talk users, you're already a step ahead of most districts as you've made this commitment to customer service. So as we're seeing this come in, great. We have Most of you are kind of sitting of like, you know what, we have a strong foundation, but room for improvement. A few of you knocking it out of the park, not surprised by that. I have a few districts in mind as I've seen you come in. Some of you are saying we're just beginning our customer service journey, and that's fantastic as well. That's usually where a lot of districts are starting. So that term customer service is just starting to work its way into, go ahead and move this, into school districts. For some of you, it might feel a little uncomfortable to be using that term. You're not quite sure how it fits, how it's going to relate. For others of you, you are embracing it. You're like, yes, we're going to work it into our strategic plan. This is a big goal of ours. We now live in this post-COVID world where families have more power than ever on choosing how and where they want to educate their children. So that excellent customer experience could be why a family decides to send their kid to your district versus taking an alternative option. As an example, Austin ISD was losing hundreds of students every year, so they commissioned a very large research study to find out why it was that families were leaving. Issues with teaching and learning didn't even make those top 5 reasons. Didn't even make the top 5. The top 5 reasons for leaving all touched on lack of trust and a negative experience with staff. So in other words, customer service. Now, the good news is all of these are pretty easy to course correct. So now's a chance for you to get ahead of this and start delivering that superior customer service to your families that will have them not only trusting your district, but raving about it as well. And the best part is you don't have to start from scratch and you don't have to do it alone. So to get us kicked off, we're going to learn a little bit more about our districts. I will share for Isaac as they're coming back on. Now, here is Isaac's school district. They have about 5,000 students and 700 staff members. Welcome back, team. I'm giving your brief intro about you. Amaret, if you feel ready, if your adrenaline has come down from the fire drill, I will pass it over to you to intro your district.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
We can. Welcome back. That was
Sorry
fast.
about that.
No worries.
I don't know where you left off, but my name's Amaret Gutierrez. I'm one of the communication specialists here at the Isaac School District. We are located in Phoenix, Arizona. We have approximately about 5,000 students and 700 staff members. We have 11 campuses and 1 online school. We have seen about 1,520 dialogues come in through various stakeholders such as staff, parents, guardians, and community members. We use the Let's Talk platform and we run surveys through K12 Engage yearly at the end of our school year to receive feedback from these various stakeholders. Our district has also participated in a customer service essentials training, unveiling the customer experience for our entire office staff district-wide this school year. That was something new that we did. And so that's just a little bit about us.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for letting me just put you right on the spot as you walked right back in.
Yes, of course.
Megan, I will now pass it over to you.
Awesome. So as I mentioned before, we are in the North Texas area, and we have just under 24,000 students. We're up to 32 campuses. We are a fast growth district. So we are expected to top out at around 40,000 students when we are fully built out. I don't exactly know how many more campuses that's going to be. All I know is we're getting really good at opening campuses with dedication ceremonies. We use our Let's Talk. We have about 13,000 Let's Talk dialogues since we started, and we use that at the district level as well as our principals at the campus level. We've rolled that out at the campus, and it's been a very big benefit for us there. We also use K12 for managed research projects, and we also use the Engage platform, the DIY platform. I actually just launched a survey this morning out of that platform of our staff, and so we try to maximize our use of our Let's Talk platform and our K12 platforms as much as possible.
So thank you, Megan. That's a fantastic transition. As questions come up, go ahead, pop them into the chat. We'll go ahead and dive into our discussion. So you heard Megan mention in our team these professional development classes and Engage, but what does that actually mean? I personally work with about 80 of our Let's Talk districts across the country. And a lot of times if I'm chatting with them, they don't actually know that we offer additional tools and resources outside of Let's Talk. So you heard Megan mention the Engage survey platform. That is a DIY survey platform with more than 50 ready-to-use survey templates that are already built in there for you. You can also build your own in there as well, and it offers dynamic reporting and insights. You heard Amaret mention those customer service professional development classes. Those coach your frontline staff on the importance of customer service and how to navigate those tricky situations. And you heard Megan again mention that managed research team. That team is full of PhD managed researchers who can host focus groups, workshops. We can pull national benchmark reports. You can see how your district stacks up on different topics. And we can even conduct those surveys from you from start to finish if you're like, I just don't have the capacity to do that right now. So there's a lot we can do. Let's go ahead and kick off our conversation. I'd love to hear from each district in other ways you've leveraged our partnership. And Isaac, let's go ahead and start with you. I think Michelle specifically.
Hi, thank you, Sharon. Hi, everyone. So a little intro, I'm Michelle, and I am also another communication specialist at the Isaac School District. We've partnered with K12. We've honestly leveraged our partnership by using the K12 Engage survey platform. We use those surveys to seek and for input and feedback from all of our stakeholders. We also use some of those survey results to reflect and refine our practices for the following school year, every single school year. We've also partnered up with their K12 professional development training, something that Emred has mentioned. We've provided customer service training for all of our office staff as well.
Perfect. Thank you. And I know we're going to get a little bit deeper to those as we go. Megan, back to you. I know you've mentioned kind of what we got going on, but tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So we do, just like most districts, we do through our managed research, we use them to conduct our annual satisfaction and engagement surveys with our different stakeholders, different stakeholder groups. We have the student survey and the senior exit survey running right now. Just finished up our spring parent and staff survey. And so we use our managed research team pretty heavily throughout the year. They have all the areas of expertise, and so I want to maximize that as much as possible. One of the great benefits of that is, I mean, I can run a survey, but man, they'll analyze it for you and they'll give you all your key points, and that saves me a ton of time to be able to have someone with that psychometrician background being able to build that survey and then being able to analyze those results and give me the key points out of that, so that we can then take that information back to our campus and department leaders, and we can make informed decisions on how to move forward, whether it's in our campus improvement plans, district improvement plans, or our strategic plan, our Aspire strategic plan, which our surveys are a heavy feature of that. Our feedback loop is a big piece of our strategic plan. So we use them for that. This year we just changed up our format. So instead of the traditional long form survey, we went to more pulse checks is what we're calling it. And we do that multiple times a year to try to increase participation and then also receive actionable data in the moment, so we can make changes then and then see how it transferred or how effective it was the next time we do the survey, maybe in the spring. And so that's been a new feature that we've tried this year, and it's actually been really successful. I've more than doubled our participation on our surveys, and so we're pretty pleased with that. For people to take the time to give you that feedback is important, so you can make informed decisions. So we have that. Then we also use the Engage platform. I just launched a survey about our employee health clinic. We also use that to build principal profile surveys when we need to hire a new principal. So we will get feedback from the campus on what it is they're looking for in their next leader. And we will use that information as part of the interview and the hiring process. So we've also used focus groups. We've used the campaign manager. So we have a variety of different tools within the K12 platform that we try to maximize.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. And wow, that's incredible to hear with the pulse survey that just by shortening it, that you've gone ahead and almost doubled your participation in that. That's fantastic. And Brian, you're actually kind of putting this out there for me. Was Megan, you had mentioned those principal surveys. And I love that. Somebody actually just chatted in of like, gosh, I never thought about that. Can you tell us more about that and how that's actually affected the hiring process for this role, and maybe even the longevity or fit for this?
Absolutely. So we've been doing these principal profile surveys, gosh, 10 years now. And they've changed over time they've been refined as we've needed to. But every time we have a principal that is moving on to the next step and we have a position to fill, we will send the survey to our staff. It's a standard survey in our Engage platform that we ask the same questions of every group, of every staff group when there's a principal to be hired. And I work with our Ed Services team. I trained them on how to launch the survey and then how to pull the results. And so it's kind of a plug and play for them. And we keep it in there and then they pull those results. As part of that, we've added a piece where we ask the staff members to nominate someone from the campus staff to be a part of the interview process so that we get that campus feedback as they're interviewing candidates. So we have not only the information that was provided from the whole staff on the profile and the type of leader that they're looking for their campus, but then we also have pulled a campus representative from that information that was provided to us to sit on the committee and actually be that representation. So it's used very heavily as part of the hiring process.
I love that. And Taylor just asked, would you say it was easy to understand how you use it? Sorry,
I'm sorry,
Taylor,
ask that question again.
Hold on. Would you say it was easy to understand, like how to use it and how to set it up and like be building these surveys?
Yes. So building the surveys is actually pretty easy once you get into it. They've got lots of stock questions in there as well as just different types of questions. You can check a radio button. You can do an open-ended question. It's got a variety of different options in there that you can pull to build that survey, and it's literally drag and drop. And then I can go in and edit them. And then you can also set it where you can set the logic on that, where it can bridge to certain questions. If your answer to this is no, and they don't need to answer the next 3 questions, you can skip those and move them down. And it's just a matter of getting in there and playing with it, but it's pretty simple. And then of course I trained our Ed Services team to do it, so I don't have to do that every time a principal comes up. And I have a step-by-step instruction sheet for them to follow, starting with here's how to log in and here's what you do this time. And then once the survey closes, here's what you do here. And I showed them how to do it once and they've taken it and ran with it.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, Sylvia, over to you. On the flip side, you're working with the Engage platform externally. So we heard Megan working with it internally to hire the principals, and you're doing it externally to run parent and student surveys. You're gauging satisfaction with teachers, engagement, curriculum, etc. I'd love to hear what made you start doing these and how has the data that you've gained from these affected your district or any changes that you've made?
Great, thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Yes, we really, as I'm sure everyone here today is on the journey of continuous improvement. So at Isaac School District, we really pride ourselves in that. And so part of that work really means, as you know, involving stakeholder input. So we really leverage this platform and the surveys that are available. And as our co-presenters have shared, there's a lot of information available. There's some even surveys that are already created, or you can do some fine tuning as you see fit. But the way we really utilize these surveys and the impact it has had on our district is really allowing for that stakeholder voice and opportunity to share their experience. So whether that may be based on their experience with their child's teacher, also what their experience is as an educator or a staff member, and then they give feedback for their site leader or supervisor. And then just also in any way that we can find opportunities to have input from our stakeholders, because that was something that came out of our work through our strategic plan, is more opportunities and varied opportunities for us to provide stakeholders opportunities to share their voice and input. Furthermore, we know that these surveys typically share that perceptional data, which is great. And then what we do with that is work towards triangulating that data and work towards seeing the feedback from parents, let's say, and then the teacher sees the feedback. The principals get all the feedback, right? K12 does a great job of really disseminating the information per site level or department. And then what we do is highly encourage our site leaders to look at this data with their teams. Obviously, this is end of the year data because we conduct these surveys at the end of the school year. We are looking to refine that process, but most importantly is what we do with the survey results. Our next steps, we work with our teams and really make sure that the committees are aware, but also take this information back to the stakeholders and share it, right? Because we want to be very open and transparent. And most importantly is what are our next steps? Because of this data, here's our next steps. And then of course, we also find things that are going great and we want to continue them. So it's an opportunity for continued growth and also just continuing to implement those strategies and our intentionality behind our actions. So hopefully that's giving you some insight.
Yeah, thank you, Sylvia. And these are both things Megan and Sylvia spoke about, that they're doing these on their own. Engage really is a great platform to use if you're looking for that autonomy and DIY option. But let's be honest, sometimes you need that little extra support. Megan, I know you've worked with our managed research team, like you said, for the last 10 years at your current district and 10 years at your previous district. You've mentioned those pulse surveys. Something fun that I know you've done is you used our managed research team to help design a new mascot for one of your new high schools. You've done a listening survey for a bond you were going for. What have been some of the most impactful projects that you've partnered with our managed research team on?
So specifically on those managed surveys, I would say there have been several. I would start with the listening survey that we did in May of 2022. This was after a failed bond election. This was the first election that this community has ever failed. In May of 2022, we know after 2020, the whole landscape looked a lot different and bonds have gotten a lot harder. And so this was kind of a wake-up call. We had been telling people we can't do things the same way and expect the same result in a different environment. And this provided the wake-up call that we needed for longtime district influencers. I'm not just talking about administration or executive leaders, but even just influencers in the community, to acknowledge that their community dynamics were changing and that priorities, preferences, and expectations are also changing. So we did that listening survey, and I said, let's listen, let's stop making decisions and stop moving forward. We need to stop and listen to what they have to say. So that insight from that survey was so valuable because it helped shape our community engagement process for our next bond, the messaging, and even the bond packages itself. We went through the information and the results of that survey in depth with our facility planning committee and really used that as they were preparing their recommendation for the board on what would work with our community, what the priorities were in our community, and where we needed to focus the efforts for our facilities and our bond. And so that was in November 23 was our next election, and it did pass. So I believe that was a big piece of the foundational part of building that bond campaign was that listening survey. Another impactful project has been the use of the campaign manager to collect some memories. We had a beloved staff member who passed away, and he'd been here umpteen years, decades upon decades, and everyone knew him, everyone loved him. And so he had generations of families that he had positively impacted that we didn't know how to reach. So we, and moreover, how are we going to collect information about him to share with the family? And so we used our managed research team. They helped us set up a drip campaign, essentially, through our campaign manager, where we were able to push that information out, and they could fill out the form that came with that and provide information that we then made into a book for the family, a memory book for the family. So that was kind of a different project. I remember when I called my team, the team that represents us there, and she was like, "You want to do what? That's cool. Haven't heard about that before." I'm like, "Well, can we?" And they made it happen. So that was a unique way to do that. And then of course our pulse surveys that we launched this year, that's been I mentioned that previously, and that's been a big that's been a big win for us this year from a listening and the feedback perspective. I know Sylvia talked about the experience that's provided. That's what we talk about that a lot here is what type of experience do you have? And if you're not getting the feedback from your community and creating that loop where they feel heard and you're actually taking action on the information that they give you, then you have a trust issue. You have the potential for people to say, well, I give you all this feedback and you do nothing with it. And so it's really important for people to be able to see the results of that, which is why the results of these end up in our decision-making process.
Oh, thank you for sharing all of that. Congrats on going back and getting that bond now passed. In my community, a bond recently failed, and I think maybe they couldn't go for another one for 5 years, and this just happened. So they're going to be feeling the effects of this for years to come.
Yes.
I think it's really smart that your district evolved to the needs. They heard what people were saying. That can sometimes be scary and vulnerable, but I love that y'all weren't stuck in your ways and you did this. Also, you've mentioned campaign manager. For those of you who might be like, what's she talking about? You can also run a campaign through your Let's Talk account where you can actually send it out and have people fill out a dialogue, collect that feedback, or in this case, those amazing memories that Megan was then able to go on and share with that family and community. So that was a special one. Thanks for sharing that. So switching gears here, we've heard a lot about our surveys and our managed research, but Sylvia, you recently partnered with our professional development team and did a 3-hour session with your school office staff called Customer Service Essentials on Leveling the Customer Experience. I'd love to hear why your district decided to offer this session, and then now a few months out of it, how has the staff taken to the training?
Great, absolutely. So we did have the opportunity to partner up, and we had a customer service PD. So we recognize, as I'm sure was stated here or alluded to, that customer service is truly the most important experience that we can offer anyone who visits our Isaac community or any of our Isaac schools. So with that, we recognize that the critical need of professional development. We know that, and I'm sure that many of you here know that we plan very intentional for our educators, right? For everyone that serves our students, our scholars, but we also recognize that the same goes for all our staff members, and we can't leave them out because they're critical individuals that work on our teams that really are the frontline members that welcome our community members. In regards to customer service, our customers are our students and our parents and our community members. And so we decided also based on the feedback, because through our Let's Talk dialogue, we were receiving a few comments, concerns about how individuals who visited some of our sites wanted or expected a little better customer service. And so with that, we also reflected and thought, okay, when was the last time that we provided customer service intentionally and really set forth time and space for all our staff members? So we, again, collaborated with K12. I worked with Nicole there, and we identified the needs. We also provided opportunities. Again, the PD was really tailored to our needs. So she and I collaborated. We created specific scenarios that are real Isaac scenarios. And so that allowed, so when our staff was there, it was all our frontline office staff members alongside with their site principals, and then all the other district leadership members. And so it was great to have the principals there alongside them so that they could support and provide additional support if needed, but also that expectation piece. If they're not at the table, then they're not sure what happened there. And so it was very important for us to have all our members there. With that, then we continue to support them by ongoing check-ins, if you will. The principals are asked to check in with them and see how it's going. We also then, it was during our interest-based negotiations that we were working with our teacher group there, and we thought about how can we also shift the staff evaluation to mirror some of these specific important components. So a lot of ongoing work, and so we're happy that we had the opportunity. And the outcome from that, of course, as good leaders do, we asked participants to share their feedback, and I'll just share 2 quotes. One was that Specifically, the whole presentation was very helpful. You provided multiple examples of strategies we can use right away. And then the other one also included the scenario. So engaging in scenarios, I had the ability to see multiple strategies. So I can go into detail what it looked like, but ultimately we had scenarios. They had an opportunity to engage with others outside of their specific site or their specific role. And so it was a very great professional development that allowed for reflection, refinement, and ongoing continuous work with our staff. So we really appreciate it. And that's something that I would definitely recommend to all.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Sylvia. And I love what you said. That's something that I love about our PD classes is like, you're practicing it, you're in it. These are skills that you're going to be able to turn around and use literally later that day, possibly. So it's not something that you have to like hold in your pocket for later. It's like real life that you're doing. So time flew by for us today. This is our last question for our group as we get ready to wrap. I'd love to hear from each of our districts. What advice do you have for a district who's just starting out on their customer journey, or maybe they're feeling like they're ready to take it to the next level but don't know where to start? Megan, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Okay, well, I think I would say focus on the experience. That's been a thread that we've talked about all the way through here. The people will remember how the old adage, people maybe not remember what you've done for them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. That is our door. That is how we get in and we continue to serve our families in the best way possible and continue to promote the good things that are happening in public schools. So creating that type of experience and setting that type of mindset across your entire staff is critical. That's a very difficult thing to do. And that's why I love the training piece. I'm going to be looking into that piece as well and bringing that there. So I'm sure my managed research team is like, great, something else from Megan. But I would say use your team. You don't have to do this alone. We're all on this journey of creating a customer service experience, and that's what they're there for. As I mentioned before, they're the psychometricians, they're the PhDs, they're the ones with the experts. So let them guide you, let them help you, let them give ideas, and then you tell them what they need and then what you need, and they will put it together for you, and they can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you want them to be. So you can either do DIY because you're like, no, I'm a control freak and I want to do this myself. Or you can say, look, I don't have the bandwidth right now and I really need to dive deeper with multiple levels of reporting and that type of thing. Then let them do it. That's what they're there for. So I would maximize the team. You get a customer service team when you sign on with K12, and you get to work with the same people over and over again and really build that relationship. And so I would say use them. That's what they're there for. We've had them even here for, I think, Sharon, you mentioned our focus groups for our mascot. We had them come and lead focus groups with our students and our parents about what type of mascot and what it needs to look like and the names and that kind of thing as we're getting ready to open our new high school, our 4th high school here in August. So they were critical on the ground to be able to start building the culture of that campus. And then also, we haven't talked much about Let's Talk, but Let's Talk has also been a huge piece of ours, and they provide a lot of support with that. So just use the people that are provided, and then any of us that are around. I've already gotten some ideas from being on this call. So we beg, borrow, and steal ideas, and we're all in this together.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Now, wait, before you go off mute, I got to know, what was the mascot? Where did it land? Or are you still
It landed on the Knights. We are the Eagle Mountain High School Knights. So
love that.
Yeah, it's very versatile. It's one of my favorites because we can do a lot with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I didn't ask that before, so I was like, wait, I got to know.
Sure.
Michelle, I'd love to hear from you. What advice do you have?
Yeah, thank you. Touching base on what Megan said, reach out to the K12 team. They've been very supportive and not only providing resources, providing support, providing training. Possibly some advice I'd give to districts is also provide professional development trainings for your staff. I know a lot of school districts provide that already on their own, so that might be a great place to start. Our professional development, customer service training helped not only our office staff, but our administrative staff to ultimately learn of how to provide a positive climate, but also provide that district ride and also build that trust with the families, which is very important, which is what we all strive to do, providing that customer service experience for all.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And I'm excited to see this trickle in through your Let's Talk dashboard as this comes to life. Well, thank you for taking the time to show up and share your stories with your fellow districts. Like you've said, you're already thinking of ways you can share with one another. And always, like you said, beg, borrow, and steal. We're not here to create this out of nothing. So here at K12 Insight, we've been working with hundreds of school districts across the country for over a decade. We've learned that these three components of customer service have a huge impact. So by streamlining those internal processes and workflows, you're able to repeatedly deliver that superior customer service. And good news is, all of you are Let's Talk users, so we already have that great foundation started. As you've learned from our panel, having data and metrics to back up your decisions can go a long way with your leaders in your community. And with that, like you've heard them say over and over, involve your leaders and your families and your community. Get them to be part of this. Excellent customer service will naturally lead to a better perception of your district and better engagement with your families. We live in this world of keyboard warriors who aren't afraid to get behind a screen and type whatever they say. And let's get that negative feedback off that social media and get your customers to a solution rather than just venting into the internet abyss. So I know we've covered a lot. This is just the tip of the iceberg from what we heard with our districts and what we can offer and how we can best support you. Before we announce next month's topic, let's launch one more poll. If you're getting ready to go for a bond, maybe you're transitioning your superintendent, maybe you'd like to gather some of this parent feedback, do that principal survey. Maybe you feel like you're needing that help with those skills and tools to do those difficult customer interactions, we can help. If you're interested in any of this, go ahead, let us know. Your CSMs will be reaching out to you with the recording as well as more information if you are interested. And it's always great to just gather it. Let's just start the conversation and kind of see where everybody's at. So as we're finishing that up, I can't believe we're here, but many of us are getting ready to wrap the school year at the end of this month or early next, which is bananas. So in June, we'll be talking all about summer cleanup of your Let's Talk account. We'll be diving into our system settings with refreshers on what you should be updating every year to keep your account from getting kind of junked up. We'll talk through some of our features and integrations that we can easily launch over summer, so we're ready for back to school 2024, 2025. And this is all going to come to you in a nice month-by-month plan so you can easily chip away and not feel too overwhelmed. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to our panel for being here and sharing your amazing stories. We are here to help you level up your customer service. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Your CSMs will be in touch this week with the recording. And we'll hang out for a minute or two if anybody has any additional questions. But thank you all so much. Right, if there are additional questions, feel free, you can raise your hand, you can just put them in. If you're ready to go ahead and hop off.
Okay, well, we got one that came through.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about why it's important to say or share out like survey results and research results, but what are some ways you've distributed results from surveys to your community or to your staff?
Good question. Let's ask Megan, or yes, yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay, and then I'll share with Megan. So one way we were and continue to be intentional with sharing the survey results is we share it on our websites. The district leaders also share it again with their staff members, but we find ways that, again, that full cycle of we want, and we need, and here's a platform for you to give us your input and share your voice. Back to looking at the data, analyzing data, reflecting, refining it, and then sharing the specific data results, survey results, but also and our next steps. So we've been very intentional about making sure at times we have focus groups with our parents. And so we take it to them because sometimes we realize that it's not analyzing data is not as accessible to many, and so we support them in that and guide them through that. So we are very intentional about ensuring that the survey results are then shared out whole group.
Yes, we follow a same process. As I mentioned before, it doesn't do any good to collect the data if you never come back and tell people what you did with it, because then they're going to stop responding to you because they don't think you're listening. So it's been a very big push of ours to, it's always been a philosophy, but it's been a bigger push in recent years to make sure that we're really closing that feedback loop. And so we usually follow up with our families to our surveys with, thank you for this information. This is, with some sort of a letter or some sort of message from either our superintendent or from our department that just tells them kind of where we're going with the information. Like you said, we received this, these are the top 3 things you told us, and these are the things that you're going to see coming out of that. We obviously can't go super deep into a lot of that because some of that is still being processed. We don't always have, here's what we're going to do with it. But as I mentioned before, we use it with our specialty groups, whether it's our facility planning from a listening survey on the bond, or with our students and how we built the mascot for the new high school. So it's very specific to those groups, but we do try to make sure that we get that information back out there. Another thing that I've been talking with our managed research team on is with these pulse surveys that we've been doing, I'd really like to create some sort of a dashboard on my website that hits the top points on that. So we're still developing that. We don't have that yet, but that's next on my list.
Oh, I love that. Please let us know when that comes to life. We got Taylor. I'm going to answer both of your questions. And once Taylor asked, do we already have access to all these additional things mentioned? Yes, there are some additional charges with some of these. So depending on what you filled out with that last poll that we mentioned, your CSM will be able to help kind of go through that with you. And then Taylor also asked, do you have any recommendations for getting staff more invested in making the most of Let's Talk as well? And yes, I see you're from Albuquerque, which is a newer district to us. We actually have, I did a whole webinar on this, so I will have your CSM send that over to you.
Can I add something to that, Sharon?
Yeah.
Sorry. The thing that I would add on the Let's Talk, we have ours rolled out where our principals also have access to Let's Talk. We do not have it at the teacher level, and that is by design. That's just what works best in our community, and for our staff to manage it. But in order to get people to use it, we actually drive people there. When we send a letter, if you have feedback, please send it here. And then we give them the Let's Talk link. It's on our website on the front page. There's a button to Let's Talk. And we're always telling people, please, send us information and Let's Talk. So we're driving people there in our regular communications, and not just for, if you have a beef or a complaint or something, send your grief here, but it's tell us your good news here. So we have a section for good news. We have a section for bond project information or bond questions. We have one on transportation, which gets a lot of use at the beginning of the school year. So we have specialty dialogue areas that we can drive people to, as well as general topic areas. But I'll tell you, most of my principals, they get most of our dialogues, and we have multiple sections for the campus, whether it's operations or curriculum or fine arts or athletics, but most of them go straight to ask Principal Davis, ask Principal McCowan. And those questions go there, and then those can be filtered to the right administrator to answer it. So that's how we do it. And it just takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. People just have to get used to it. It's like introducing any kind of new system. People have to get comfortable with it, and then they start to use it, and that becomes the norm.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. We are almost at time, so I'm going to ask one more question that I saw come through, because Benny, I think this is a great question of, do you have a department that specifically works with customer service? And if so, how are their roles defined? It's a tough one.
So Sharon, is that question within our district or within K12, right?
Within your districts, yes.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Megan, if you want to share. I mean, we are the communications department that work directly adjacent to our superintendent's office. And so we manage all the Let's Talk and customer service. Similar to what Megan just shared, that's how we have our setup, where principals principals have access, so we support. When we see a dialogue aging, then we support and as we see fit. But definitely, if it's something for the principal or the site administrator, we let them answer. The second part of the question was, how do we define our roles? I want to make sure I address the question.
Yeah.
Within my department, I mean, that's customer service is what we stand for and support. So that's embedded, I believe, in all our roles and responsibilities that we have. We are transitioning to making a shift of the internal and external, but all members of our communications department are supporting our customer service efforts. So I hope that helps. We're here to serve others and so my team knows that's our motto, is serving others. And so we do it to the best of our abilities.
I love that. Thanks, Sylvia.
I would say very similar. When somebody says customer service or who's responsible for customer service, everybody looks at communications. So, and then my response is, yes, we can help you manage those programs, but everybody's job is customer service. And so we are the facilitators of the customer service. We are the facilitators of the superintendent's and the board's expectation for the experience that is created in our district. And we are also the one pushing that term and getting people to think outside the box of customer service is not just how do I answer the phone. That's a part of it, but it's what type of experience are people walking away from after they have engaged with you. So a big function of our job, our communications plan is a strategic engagement and retention plan. It's not a communications plan. It's about creating that family engagement and that staff engagement and even that student engagement. And we're very fortunate in our district that we're actively involved in the development of our strategic plan. And so that those pieces are infused throughout. So hopefully we're getting everybody responsible for customer service by putting it in the strategic plan. So
absolutely. Well, thank you all. We're at time. We're a little over. Thank you to our panelists for saying. I feel like we could have gone way longer. This was such a great conversation. If anybody does have questions specific for your district, I'm happy to ask them for you, get them in touch. Also, our whole team is here to support you. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you a smooth rest of the week, and we will see you all soon.